Hi there and welcome to Darlene's Creative Studio. Today is day 23. We're getting there. It's been a long hard challenge trying to think of something creative every single day, videotaping it, uploading it, downloading it and all that. But we're getting there. So day 23, we're going to be looking at using a die cut in your project. Now I have been using some of the die cut thinlits in some of my other projects, and I end up with some of the insides or creating tags, and you end up with either the insides, the pieces that you're using for a project, or you end up with what I call the frames of the projects that you were just cutting out. So there's some frames. These are actually plates, so you would use those in a project. And these are photo frames that I used. That's another frame. And then these are some of the frames of the things that I cut out with my die cuts. So I thought, why not try and use up some of the actual frames? So if I cut out this little jar, this is the frame part of it. So this is the negative part. This is the part you would normally throw away. So I wanted to see if there was a way of maybe using up some of these cutouts and making them into a pocket or something else. So these are just some of the scraps that I had. I was testing out a new punch. And then here's some others. So we're going to play around with our die cuts and maybe some of the frames and use them in a couple of projects. So let's get rid of our little card here and put it in our little book for day 23. And we're getting close to the end of the book, which is nice to see. 19, 21, 22. 22, I'm going to put 23 up there. So let's grab our glue, see if we can get the glue to come out this time. There it is, good. And so I'm probably about halfway through my book, because these are the centers of my book here. So this little book worked out well. And we are going to be using die cuts and old cutouts of frames, scrap paper, and others. January 23rd, 2020. Okay, so I'm just going to move some of this stuff out of the way. I'll move the die cuts out of the way for a second. And I've lost my little pokey thing already. Here we go. Put him in there. So these are some of the inserts of some of the tags that I cut out. So this was the inside of a frame. So you can use those. Don't throw these away. When I was making tags yesterday, I cut out the ovals. And you can use those as a frame by just putting in another piece of paper on the inside of this and making that a frame. So don't throw these away, save those. These are actually the pieces that I was cutting out. There's another one that was the inside of a frame. But these are actually die cuts of little tags that you can use. So there was frames for these inside some of these other bits and pieces here. So this one here, I had cut two of these out. I was going to put those in my little tin, and I thought, why not use a piece of this and maybe do 3 of them in a row and then put something behind it to kind of make it stand out. So that was what I was working with. So I grabbed some of my cardstock and I grabbed one of these envelopes, and these are just some envelopes that I got from a little craft room. Somebody was recycling some envelopes, and I love to recycle, so I saw these and I just love the color of them. Kind of a heathery look to them. They're kind of a mixed white and ivory. And I thought if I tea stain this, or sorry, excuse me, distress this with some distress ink, which is what I did, just to give it a more vintagey look. So I was playing with that. And then I thought if I take this frame and maybe make it 3, so I could make like a little strip going down here. So I did that, and I took my stamp and I stamped that and I put it on the frame, and this is what I ended up with. So I took my little die cut frames, which was this one here. And I'm just going to take it out of the packaging here. And these are on little magnetic sheets. Oops, I took the whole thing out. I bought these magnetic sheets, and it's great for the thinlits because they usually come in like little pouches, and they roll around in there. And this way I can actually flip through all my die cuts and just see what I want to be using. Here, let me put this guy back in. I just put some cardstock in there underneath. And now I can just flip through my die cuts like this. And they're all in these little magnetic cases. And I can just pick the ones that I want to use and slide them out of the sleeve. So these were some of the ones that I was using for creating some of these tags. So this little guy, I just put in, cut a piece of cardstock and set it in my die cut this way, and just cut out 3 of them, and then I stamped it with my stamp. And I think I'm going to take a piece of, let me just move some of these other things. I received this paper in with my Creative Studio, and these are the 3 pieces that are left. There's one that's kind of vellum-y, and I was going to put that on there, like just underneath, and do that, but I think it's a little too dark. And then, no, I'm not going with Michael Jackson, sorry. And then I had this one, and I think I'm going to try this one and just glue that onto the envelope, and then have this guy go on top, and then these little pieces will kind of show through. So that's one way of reusing up your frames. Don't throw them away when you cut out tags. Just set them in a pile somewhere, or in a Ziploc baggie, and then when you go to work on a project, they're great for layering in on top of a project. When you're doing a collage or adding something to a page, you can cut one of these. You could even just cut across there and use one single one and put it over top of something, just to bring it down a little bit and add a little bit of layer. So this paper, once I got it on, I thought it was a little too busy. Maybe you could just add that one little piece on and make that piece stand out a little more. So you could maybe have just one, and maybe just have it around the flower, just to kind of give it that layered look. But I have this one with the 3, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that one on. And I'm not going to make it a pocket because maybe we could leave it as a pocket and still slide something underneath it. Why don't we do that? Let's leave it as a pocket for now. Okay. So I'm just going to, and I'm sorry for the bright light. It is later in the evening. I never got around to doing anything today because it was so cold here. And we just kind of took it easy today. Okay, so there we go. And we've created this to make it look like it's a pocket, so we could slide things underneath if we wanted to put something in there as well, like a journaling card or something. And then this is just a simple envelope, so I could use a piece of, so say this was my page in my journal. You can have it tuck under the back like this, and you can glue that flap down to the back. And you could have it flip open like this, and you could put something here and put a card in there like that. Or you could have it upside this way and make it flip up and put something over top of this one. There's so many different ways of using this, but I would normally put it around the back like that and have it on the edge of a page, and then you would just put glue here and here underneath, and you could use that as a tuck spot as well, and then decorate this as well. So there's one idea of decorating, and again, you can just stick a piece of index card or something like that would go underneath. Make yourself a little card of some kind. But I like these little things showing through the window, so we'll leave it like that for now. So there's one way of using them. I also have made, these are from the Atlas book pages that I used in the other project that I made the little trifold, accordion trifold out of. They're very, very large sheets of paper, and I have a template that I've made for myself for a little tiny envelope. And I was cutting a whole bunch of them out the other night, and I thought, I wonder how this paper would be if I tea stained it. And I didn't bring, you know, tons of paper and stuff, so I thought, why not try and tea stain some of this? So these are a few of them that I've tea stained before I glued them closed. I just threw them in the oven to dry them really quickly. So we have some of these, and I thought, why not take one of those envelopes and distress the edges on the front. I haven't done the back yet. Normally, because I would glue this again either behind something and have it flip up, or I would glue it, if I had a piece of page, I would put this little piece behind like that and glue it, and then put it down on, if it was like a little strip, say, I would have that like that, and then it would just fold down underneath. So the flap is actually underneath the paper and you don't see it, and then you could flip it up and you would decorate here and slide a little card in there as well. But I took these little cards and I grabbed one of these smaller pieces of cardstock and I just cut it out to fit inside the envelopes like that. So these would fit, and again, you just play with them and see which ones. Now these envelopes are going to all be folded differently because I used a template. That one's kind of crooked. So there, and then what I did was I took this little guy and I put it through my press and I cut out the little centerpiece, and then I distressed the edges of the cardstock, and then I stamped it with a stamp on top, and then I'm going to put this on top of here. And this will be one of the frames. So if I was cutting this out to use as a label, I save the label and use the frame. So always save all your scraps and your frames. So then what I'm going to do is I have this floral book. It's one of my favorites. And I cut out some of the florals and I actually tea stained these. I threw these in some tea just to see how they turn out. And they turned out really well because they were very, very white. And I thought these might be fun to put underneath this little picture like that. So that will go under there. So I'm going to trim this guy up a little bit. Let me just grab my scissors here. And I really want that little picture to be in the center like that. I'm just going to play with it and see where it goes. Kind of like that. Right about there. So we need to trim a little bit off the bottom because we don't want any sticking out from under our, there. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little tiny bit around this frame. And then maybe just go out a little bit more on the sides, like that. And I'm going to turn it this way so that I can make sure I put it where I want it within that frame. And make sure I don't go over a bit. And then I'm going to glue this onto the front of my envelope. And I'm just add a little bit under there. I always keep gluing my fingers when it gets stuck. All right. And then I'm just going to add that onto the front of my envelope. And I'm going to lift it up because it's very bouncy on this pad. So there you go. There's a simple little frame, and I'll do another one of these. I just wanted to show you how I did it. Like that. So let's take one of our little pieces here. Just move this out of the way. And I'm going to take a piece of our cardstock, and I'm going to choose the shape that I want to put on this card and flip through my little, don't think it was this one I used. Let's see. It was this one. It was this little one here. So I'm just going to pull that guy out. And I'm going to set my paper on my, I think I've explained this before. This is the plate that you use for your sidekick. And this is your embossing folder. You normally get 2 of these plates. And what I've done is double-sided taped a piece of my cutting mat to this plate. So the thickness has made it thicker. So I'm just using the embossing folder, and that should be the thickness of the 2 plates together. And I do this because the dies actually cut into the plates, and then you have to order new plates. If you put this on and get the right thickness, you don't have to worry about replacing the plates every couple of months. It's because they get pretty marked up. So I'm just going to take a little piece of washi tape, and I'm just going to position it where I think it should be in the middle. I'm just eyeballing this. You want to make sure it's straight, so we got the same distance on either side, up and down. And then I'm just going to stick a little piece of washi tape on there to hold the die in place. Put my embossing folder on top. Now this isn't secured down, so it might bobble around a little bit, but let's see how it does. Come out of the way. Remove that. I'll just leave that there. And there is our piece that we're going to save. And here is our little cutout. And then all I did was round out my corners. Now I've seen another lady on YouTube that does a lot of layering and creating tags and stuff, and she actually uses these and gessos them and does a very collagey type tag, and she uses these little frames that she cuts out as well. So let's just move that guy out of the way, and then we're going to stamp. Where is my stamp? Oh, under here. See, I have so much stuff on here, I keep losing things. So we're just going to take this, and we'll move our die cuts out of the way. And I'm just going to stamp this in the brown. And I need something under this, maybe this down here. I could put that under, but I need something solid to go underneath that. I'm just going to slide this scrapbooking paper under there, that will work. Okay. And then I'm just going to go like that. Lift it up. Lift it off. Move this guy out of the way. So there is our second one. And I'm going to distress the edges of this envelope. I'm just going to fold that in half because it's got a lot of ink on it. And let's distress our envelope. Okay, and then that will go on there. So let's pick a flower that will go on the inside. And once this is drying, it won't take long because it's the distress ink. It absorbs pretty quickly. I'll distress really quickly around the edge of that. But we can use maybe this one. And again, I'll trim it down, but I like the idea of the little daisy in there. You can barely see it though, but I like the white and the ivory. We also have this one. Let's try this one. That one's pretty. Okay, so we need to cut this down. All right, I just want it to fill inside. Right about there. Am I doing it the right way? Yes, I am. I don't want the words to show. So right about there. So let's flip that over. So I still have to cut quite a bit off this side here. Make sure my words are upright. There. So we're just going to glue that guy on there like that. Get him kind of placed where we want him. We want more of the flower. There we go. And then we're just going to glue this guy on here. Let me just push this down. Okay, and then we're just going to glue this one down. Onto here. Just move this guy away for a minute. And there we go. There's another one. So there's those two, and I'll make a couple of more. I also have, I was playing with this. This is a new die. Let me just move these out of the way. Get that one in there. And we've got this one here. I'll set him there. So this was a new die that I think I got this in a magazine, and it came with a little label and an embossing label. And so I cut this guy out, and I thought, why not maybe use the frame of the bottle, this part of it. So we'll save that for later. And then I thought maybe something like this, where you can have the little flowers on the inside of the bottle like that. And then here you could actually put a piece of maybe the scrap of something like this, where it would cover where the lid is. So the lid would be a different color, and that would be like a little bottle. So I was looking at that. I have a little black piece, I think, too. See if I can find it in my scraps here. There's a little black one. And then there's also one like this. This one might be nice. Let's try that one. So if that was inside our bottle, we could have a little gray lid like that. That kind of looks nice. Or we can have a little black lid. That's too stark. I think I'll use this little piece here. So we just need something that's going to fit behind the lid. We don't need it that wide. So this will go behind here like that. So let's glue him on around our lid. Like that. And where did I just throw it? There it is. So let's place this one here. Fingers are all sticky. There we go. So that's the lid of our jar, and then we'll add the picture behind it. And what I normally do is just take my pencil and get it where you want it to be. Let's move it down a bit. Like there. And I'm just going to briefly outline. Oop, stay. Like that, and then we just cut it on the inside of that line, like this. Let's move these guys out of the way, so that when we put this inside, like that, it is actually inside a piece of paper. So we can go ahead and maybe glue this guy on. And I'm just going to bring this scrapbooking pad over here so it gives me a flatter surface. This guy's giving me a hard time here. So let's just set him down and then figure out where we want the bottle, the flower to be. Right there. There. And then we can just attach this, something on the back of this, another piece of cardstock, to cover that up. And that could almost be the front of a card, maybe, if you're making some cards. And it could be a flip out. It can go on the front of a tag. Like that. So let's cut this out. Something like that, but I'm not going to use this white because I think it's a little too stark for that. But it could go on another piece of paper like that. Let's see if we can find something. I have tons of scraps here. I think I have something here we can use. Let's see what we have in here. There's another piece of this. Play around and see if we can find something that we can attach this to and make it into like a card or a tag of some kind. I like that one actually. So how wide is this? And again, this was just a scrap piece that I grabbed. So 2 3/4 by 4 1/2. So I need, let's do 3 inches. see how that looks. Like that. And we can bring it like there. And then maybe there. Let's just give this edge a little bit of a distressing here. So again, a great way to use up scraps, frames, little bits and pieces. Maybe we can round the corners of this as well. Let me see, where's my little corner rounder? I know I just had it here somewhere. Just to soften it up a little bit, because the bottle is round. Let's make our corners round. Like that. Yeah, I like that. And then we can round it this guy as well. Like that. And then we'll just glue this guy on. Now this paper is wrinkly because I just put it in the oven to dry it really quickly so I could do this, and it did make that paper flower wrinkle quite a bit. Alright, so let's put him on there, and I'm going to brush him down, make sure that glue doesn't ooze out and get all over my roller, and that way it's nice and flat. There, and that just takes that wrinkle out of the paper. There. So there is another little journaling card that we can use. Now it's white on the back, but you can add, is that another page? Oops. It's probably underneath this humongous pad of paper, right? There it is. You can add a piece of paper on the back here. Let's do that. You always have to have some journaling spot. I don't have tea stain paper yet. That's one of my things I want to do, is actually tea stain some paper while I'm here. So I will be working on that perhaps next week or after this challenge is done. I will be tea staining a bunch of paper while I'm here. Yeah, that will look nice. So we'll distress the edges of this. And then we'll do the edges of this little guy too. Just really quickly, we'll do some edges here. There we go. Put my board back. Let's make sure it's upside right. And let's glue this guy on. And again, now I didn't bring all of my die cuts because I only brought my sidekick with me, and only a certain size of die cuts will fit through the sidekick, the thinlits and the thinner ones, and they have to be of a certain size to fit through the they more or less have to fit on this plate, the width. So I can only use a die that is 2.5 inches wide to fit through the sidekick. So I could only bring some of my smaller die cuts with me. But I did bring along, and I did use in the binder, some of my bigger die cuts. Let me just move these. I'm going to be working on some of these tomorrow, I think. These were some that were smaller, but again, it will not fit through my sidekick. See how it's too wide? So I have to use my larger one to make these. So I made a whole bunch of these when I was at home one day, using up some of the scraps that I had. I made some smaller ones, and then I made some for Christmas as well. But this larger one, a friend of mine brought her template to one of our crafting groups, and I made a couple up, and I did put one of these in my binder on the inside page. And it's here, and this is the larger one. I tried ordering it online. It is coming, does come from China, and it was going to take about a month, and then they finally contacted me and told me that it was the order was canceled, and they refunded me my money. So obviously they couldn't get it across the border, or they ran out of inventory. I'm not sure what, but I'm still going to keep trying, because I'd really like to get the larger one of these if I can. But I do use this one a lot. And these ones for smaller tags, you just stick them inside a page and use one of those. So you could always use one of these on a card as well, on the back of something. And maybe we'll use one of those in another one. So you could use a piece of paper like this and take a card and put that on like that and make, where's our little envelope here? Buried under all my stuff here. So you could make something that will fit inside this envelope, and you could have one of these, or you could even put one of those on there. Ooh. Let's see. That one's kind of close to it. What about this one? There. Okay, so let's use a piece of something on there. We have in here as our supplies. We'll put him here. He's finished. He's too blue for what we were using. I like this one, but it's got Michael Jackson on the front of it. Maybe I can cut him out. I just wanted to use up this paper. So let's do that. Let's say we need something that's about 3.5 inches. So I'm going to cut this guy up. There, that's not so bad. So we could put that on there and then attach this fellow on top. And we just need to distress our edges. So let me move my scrap papers and all my little bits and pieces. And where is my distresser? Here it is. I'm seriously losing my mind here. Oh, here it is. I keep moving stuff out of the way and then I can't find it. It's late. I'm tired. I shouldn't be doing this late at night. All right. So we're going to distress the edges of this just a little bit. All right, so let's put this guy on here. Okay, let's not move that too far. I might need it again. All right, and then we're going to put this one inside there like that. I need my flat surface again. Let's get my brayer. Just pushes it down a little better. And then we can put this guy on top of there like that. And we can distress the edges of this as well. Just a little bit. So this is another die cut. There's all kinds of different die cuts out there that you can use. Let's glue that one onto there. So with these, you only want to glue up the sides and across the top and across the bottom, because this is going to be a pocket that you slide things into. So you can use the bottom half as well as a pocket. So let's set this guy on here, right about, maybe we can move it down a little lower, like that. And then some of these little, see, you can put little bits and pieces in there as well. And you can use some of your little tags here in the middle. That one's too big. We can put that guy on there. Or we can use something like that. That's too big. That one might be a little too wide. Having a hard time with this glare. Put that guy there. I'm also going to grab a piece of this. Put that down underneath it, I think, just to give it a little pizzazz. There. So we put this guy down, and this guy can go on top of it. That looks not too bad. Maybe a little too thin. So we need something just a little bit wider than this one. That might be a little better. Yes. Let go me. All right. I'm just going to set that on there like that. There. That guy can go there. This guy can go on top. Like that. Okay. Can use this for the Fabri-Tac. Find that a little easier for these guys. almost time for bed. Things are sticking to me, and there we go. We'll put him on there. Move him down a smidgy there. I hope that's straight. I can't see very well. And then in my scrap bin, I have some of this paper. We're just going to eyeball this. Hopefully I can cut it in a straight line. There, that can go in there as well. Now this book page is very thin, and when I use the glue, the glitter glue, you can actually see the glue through it, and it does eventually dry, so you don't see it, but you could see the squiggly lines there, like that. So then you can just take some of your little tags and just kind of stick some in there for the next person to has a pencil mark on it. They can use those for some of their other pieces. There's this little guy. Put this one. A little photo frame. Put that guy in there. There. And that just gives some extra little fun things for them to use. Like that. So now when you add this to a book page and you flip it over, you have all these on the inside, and you make something that can go on the inside, like this little tag, like that. And then we can make something to go inside that one. And it can just be a simple piece of paper. We don't need anything too technical for there. And I'm just going to grab something bigger. Like that. I just make a simple journaling card. We can glue that on the back. And I'll show you what I mean when I glue this paper on. You'll see the glue through it, but it does dry and it doesn't show through. So we'll glue this guy on. And you can see some of the lines there where the glue is wet, but it does dry and they do go away. I was a little concerned when I made another tag and thought, oh great, I should have used my Fabri-Tac, but it actually worked out well and dried clear. So there we go. So we have that one. Let's round our corners. And we'll distress our edges. some little bits of frame. Let me just see what I have here. These are some of the little bits and frames that I had left over from this way. Let's try this one. And it's just a matter of playing with what you have and making it work. Reuse it. Oops, didn't punch all the way. Just adjust that a little bit, and that can go on there. It can go on this side. It can go over like the word français. Comes very well. Oops. That, let's see, and it can go over a word, and I'm going to do this, and I'll show you what I'm going to do around the edges. I've done this a couple of times. So let's just glue this guy on. And then take our pin, let's move these guys out of the way. And I'm just going to do some little dashes around the outside. Like sewing. Like that. I hope everyone is warm, has some great weather. Like I say, it's gotten very cold here in Florida. Not the nicest of temperatures. But the sun was shining, so we were not complaining. We were so bundled up. We had 2 sweaters on, and we were sitting outside on the balcony and just enjoying the sunshine. There we go. So there's a simple little tag that we can slide in the front here as well. Like that. Oh, it's getting caught on my little, there we go. Got caught on my little, there. So there you go. We've made a whole bunch of little tags. These are some of our die cuts. And then this would say would just go on the edge of a piece of paper. I can't even put it on the edge of this one because it's square. It would sit on the edge like that. So you would have, and it would lift up, and you'd see this one underneath, and you'd be able to get your little tag out of there as well. So there's a couple of uses for die cuts. There are so many die cuts out there and so many ways for using them. Again, I just brought along a few of them on my trip, so wanted to show you ways of using them. Some of your scraps, some of your cuts, and using some of your other dies as well for making tags. So that's it. A quickie, an easy, good way to use up some scraps. Have some fun with it. Pull out all your die cuts and look at them in a different way. And don't forget to save those frames. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow.